Hi guys, this is Bison, your host, and today we are diving into round 6 of Candidates Final from 1971, featuring none other than Bobby Fischer taking on Tigran Petrosian. And let me tell you, the way Fischer attacks in the end will absolutely blow your mind. I will only explain the important moves of this game. Till then, enjoy the game. Okay, so basically this move opens the diagonal of this light square bishop. And obviously here white can't exchange the queens because look at the black pieces which are almost covering all the board, and by this exchange it will become easy for black to manage the game. So that's why after seeing this, Petrosian decides to go back to e2. But instead of knight to f3, in this position white must consider this amazing move, which is a4. And suppose if black decides to lock the position by playing b4, now comes a5, targeting this knight, and after knight moves, knight to c4, targeting this bishop, and after bishop to c7, white can go for a6. And clearly you can see that now white is back into the game. And suppose after a4, if black decides to after this move, suppose if black decides to capture this pawn, now after takes, you can see that now white is threatening to play a5, and if black tries to attack the pawn by the rook, white can defend this by his queen. And now queen to e6 looks logical for black, which brings the queen into the game. But now comes the move knight to b3, targeting this c5 pawn. And after knight to d7, knight to f3. And again, you can see that white is doing great. Okay, so in the actual game, after knight at e goes to f3, now here white rook can also capture this pawn, but instead he goes for g4, opening some space for this king. But guys, here instead of f3, white must consider this move rook to b1, attacking this bishop, and after suppose bishop captures on f2, rook to f1 targeting this bishop, and after bishop moves, now white can simply capture this pawn with a check, and you can see that basically this f6 pawn is the core of this pawn chain, and after suppose king moves, rook to e6 targeting this pawn, and after suppose rook to c5 defending this, now rook to e7 check, king to b6, and finally rook to e6 check. Although black is still better, but white can manage to equalize the game if black made any mistake. Okay, so in the actual game after f3, and that's a mistake by Petrosian, because it is important for white to keep this rook towards this first and second rank, which defends this white king from any threats. This is because now Fischer finds a great move, bishop to a5, completely cutting this a file for this rook. And you can see that now this rook is struck into the 7th rank, and suppose if white is greedy and capture on h7, now comes this amazing move bishop to b6, covering the a7 and c7 square so that white rook can't enter into it. And now black is threatening to bring his rook to a8 with the idea of rook to a3 check, and suppose if white is not careful and instead he goes to f7 square attacking this pawn, but now comes rook to a8 with the same idea of rook to a3. Okay, and if captures, rook to a3 check, and obviously this king can't go to c2, otherwise black will simply push this d3 and white has to lose his knight. So that's why the only way best move is to go to d2 square. But now comes bishop to a5 check, and if king to d1, rook to d3 check, and after king to c1, rook to e3 attacking this knight, and after suppose knight moves to g3, d3, and now you can see that black is close to promotion. And suppose if white tries to attack this rook by knight, simply rook to e1 check, king to b2, and finally d2. And clearly you can see that no one can stop this promotion, and to stop this, white has to lose his rook. And yeah, game over. Okay, so in the actual game, after bishop to a5, Instead of h4, here white must consider e5, trying to destroy this pawn chain. And in this position, Petrosian reside. This is because now black is threatening mate in 1, and to stop this, white have to give a check, but king to e3, king to f1 so that he can run towards this square, but simply king takes f3, and you can see that this check will not gonna work, because if this check, simply bishop to e3. And yeah, that's all. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.